me just say one thing. In the middle of teaching a class, you're not going to stop there and go, where's the impact happening here? I mean, that's not what this is about. This is sort of to take a step back and think about these things to broaden how you're thinking about teaching. Okay? Not in the context of a classroom, yes.
I was thinking, when I was reading this, I was thinking in a dance class, would the task style be kind of like chisel and tap class? Your teacher demonstrates a triple time step, and you do it a few times with the class, and then you tell them to all practice on their own, and you walk around, and you kind of give them corrections. They might break it down, they might, so they're choosing their own timing and that sort of thing, but it's still
Right.
like, here's your task, do a triple time step.
Yeah, that is one of the ways of using tasks. Yes, and that's probably the one that we will use the most. And see, now you're going to find that we do all of this spectrum, but we just have never named it anything like that. Sometimes they're put together, tasks and practice are put together, so that's what it is. You have now this table specifically asked me where, because there are many more styles of these 4, and actually Boston's broken down, I think, into 12 teaching styles. So, like, where are those? And Carrie just put in spectrum of teaching styles, and you're going to get a whole bunch of websites. So if you really want to read up on all of them in all your leisure time, right? In all your leisure time, do look at some of those websites and see what this is all about. Good. So let's hear about reciprocal.
So reciprocal, the student gets a little more control, but in the post-impact part, and they do that through evaluation. So, so we had an idea about how that could happen. It was actually your idea.
Well,
Speak,
Danielle,
we got to get our teaching voices. We got people over here. Okay.
Danielle was saying that we should have like a list of things to look for in a plie releve, and that the person who's the teacher partner would watch the doer, and they'd be like evaluating as the person is doing the plie and releve, and kind of checking things off. But we didn't want to name specific things because we wanted the teacher partner to have that control and decide what was important and if the doer was following through with those things. And then the teacher of the class would actually walk around and check in with the teacher partner and say, you know, how's it looking or whatever, but not give away what the person should be doing in the plie releve combination.
Now, those of you not in the ABT track, if you're full-time, you'll take it next semester, and if you're not full-time, you'll get it eventually. But I teach a class in the spring semester called Advanced Technique and Pedagogy, and we're going to do so much reciprocal because I love reciprocal teaching, and I think it's my passion. So, and one thing that reciprocal is really great for are big classes. And especially big classes with lots of variation in level, because then you get people. And then another thing that happens is when you put this, and I liked your choice of words, teacher partner, when you put people together in pairs and you do all this reciprocal, even the teacher partner is starting to see things and apply things that they can then use themselves. Mm-hmm. And so it's a really effective mode of teaching. Now, I know it's not really traditional in a ballet class, but you'll find that it's an amazingly effective tool. And it's not so radical that ballet would look at it and say, what in the world are you doing? You know, so when you think about things. Because if you're a teacher and you've got 30 students, and just a simple thing like rolling down, you know, let's say, and you want to see if everybody's going sequentially, you know, starting from the head, and you want to go down and touch 30 heads, that's going to take a really long time. But if you do reciprocal, you can get it done, have everybody have the tactile feeling of somebody coming behind them and maybe getting the weight, you know, getting that feeling, so that you don't physically have to help 30 people feel the weight of their head. Just for things like that, reciprocal is great.
This is a reciprocal class, this one, right now.
I don't know, I never thought about it in this context. Because Mauston's spectrum of teaching styles is specifically for physical movement. He came out of the PE So he's really talking about physical movement teaching, which is why it appeals to us in dance so nicely. It's not so much talking about this kind of class right here now, but I'll think about that. You could, if you really analyze it from impact and decision making and everything like that, I suppose you could apply it to anything. Okay, let's hear about some guided discovery. And I took most of the ABT people, it was their complete challenge. Okay.
So from how we understand it, guided discovery is like you know as a teacher what you want the student to learn. You want them to get there on their own. So rather, like you don't just tell them. You want them to figure it out for themselves. And the way you do that is through like a series of questions that you ask them to help them overcome.
Guided is the key, yes. Remember that guided word, yes. So what kind, just for plie releve, what did you ask them?
What's a low level and what's a medium level? What do you think the low level is? Hopefully play a position at the lower level. And then they'd come up standing and then go on. Done.
Okay, that's a way to start. No, I think this is great. You know, when you give up in guided discovery, it's shaping everything from the beginning. Going back to command, you know, stand up, you know, if you're gonna do, Dominique, give us a plie releve in ballet command style. Stand up and do it. Well, no, stand up and do it. What are you gonna do? Not dress for it, but it's okay. Yes. 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 Okay. You give everything. You give the complete shape, right? Okay. That's what you're giving up, right? You just said low level.
Yeah, low, so no ballet, no turnout, no
So,
posture.
so what guided discovery means, if you have shape in mind, if you're in the ballet realm and you have shape in mind, oh, you can do the shape from the beginning.
Because
So
I
put somebody
said,
in a
you
wall.
know, you're putting a really narrow wall.
Oh,
And
okay.
then you have to.
So you can't get somebody down
can't-
here,
they won't
right,
sit where they
or
won't
back
ever turn
here,
out.
or
Right.
wherever, okay.
They'll want to keep the posture up and then they'll have to
Yes,
play.
okay. Okay, that's good. But what guided discovery does generally give up is complete shaping, like that clean shaping that you might, that a ballet technique would ask for. Other techniques maybe not so much, or not so much at the beginning.
A lot of like things about like grammar and things like that, like more shapes than that.
Yes, so there's formal shaping, right? Okay, so
So
if you don't,
for you for a second.
like there's a whole gram shelf here. Great. Okay, and Deborah's class
Like even
a week or two ago did
Last
gram.
week, yeah.
Okay, you all could sit here and plead together. Did you call them
Plead.
pleadings?
Yeah.
Just contractions, yes. That was my first technique. Yeah. It's like, please. I'm done pleading. Okay. Yes, okay, the knees, the thighs, the hip sockets. Oh, they all hurt just thinking about it. Okay. But when you give up, so where are the decisions made in guided discovery?
The student,
All the student. The student. The student makes something, yeah. So you're shifting. You're shifting. But these four things that we talked about today, just briefly, all have an outcome that you want. Okay? The next half of the spectrum, and there's more than four in this half, and there are more than four in the other half, but the next half has outcomes that you may or may not want. Okay? And that's really much more abstract thinking. That's not why we're not really thinking of exploring now. And chances of seeing that in a class that you observe are really slim. But what I would suggest you do is in all that free time, with all your open free weekends, read things online just to get a sense of where this can go. There was a hand up right here, yes?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that while I was reading and thinking and then listening to the examples we just gave, it just makes me think the guided instruction, how discovery, it's also makes a teacher get so creative in terms of how to, okay, I need to teach this, and then just for them to even talking about the example of the wall and all of that,
What do
for
you
every
think
single
about?
lesson plan, it's a whole world of engaging as instructor and say, okay, what creative ideas do I get for them to discover a turn or discover this chalet or it's just I don't know. It's interesting. It's just I think it's like so engaged in further preparation for the instructor in our case.
That's what, I think you really hit the nail on the head, as we say. The reason those of us in dance really like Austin, and the reason I share it with you and want you to really think about it for a while, not all in just one day, is I think it just adds depth to what you can do as a teacher. There is not one way to do this. And some of you have found these things intuitively. I was doing reciprocal long before I knew there was a word for it. You just find it because as a teacher, you're in a class and you're just saying there's got to be, and it helps you mix it up a little bit. And by mixing it up with all these things, you're also, I erased this already, you're challenging students in a different way. They have to engage with guided discovery in a much different way than they engage with these other things. If you always just give it to them and that's the way it is, there will be a slightly less engaged perspective. So the other thing I really want to say is command is not bad. I know sometimes we read this and we think, oh God, that's the worst. All I can say is all command 100% of the time is boring. Okay? Even in the most traditional technique, and I'll look to ballet because that is the most traditional technique, the really good teachers don't do 100% command. If you really look at them. So now when you go back to look at your teaching analysis, start really thinking about what happened. If you haven't gone to teach yet, you'll do a better job, I think, but you've already observed. You may want to go back and just take a little peek in now that you're thinking about these things, because you will find that there are subtleties of changing it up. And that is not only good for you as a teacher because it keeps you vitally alive, and I'm sure, Benny, you've been doing things intuitively for a long time. You just didn't have words for them, okay? But just the way your classmates were describing what you did the other day, it's really clear you were doing a lot of these things without even describing them. So now look at the teachers you observe and see what they're doing.
Just like, so for like say a ballet class that they're allowed to stand wherever they want at the bar, that would be more towards task, correct? As opposed to like assigning them their spots at the bar, which some do.
Yes. And have you ever had a ballet teacher say reverse it to the other side?
On your own.
Yeah. What is that? It's tasks. Okay, so right away we're out of command. And don't you think that that's a better, I mean, you as a student, when somebody says reverse it, don't you feel like you know the material a little better? Okay? Okay, now you're starting to, yeah.
Like, wait, but you're kind of what you're saying, yeah, like from one side to the other, for example.
Yeah,
Reverse.
or ballet, because we have over and under,
Yeah.
that's a real learning experience. Yes, all you ABT people, you know what I'm talking about? Yes, okay. So if the teacher demonstrates it all going over, and then you've got to reverse it going under, not going to do all the fancy steps, right? Something else is going on there. Yeah, she's doing it. Okay. All right. Okay. Good. Good. Yes, those words. I can't pronounce it. Yes. Okay. Good French. Okay. So, your observations. Is everybody clear now what you're doing specifically with the assignment?
Do you break it into two sections, or
You can blend it in.
Okay.
Okay, that's a good question. Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Before you said it's not supposed to be like evaluative.
Not evaluative as if this person is good or this person is
So
bad.
like it says here, like if this one can say like you did too
Not
much.
the week after.
Maybe it would have been helpful to try this.
That's okay. That's okay. But not, this was a good teacher or the
No,
students
but-
stink or something.